It's Platt. Y'all didn't think I was going to go the whole holidays without going down the beer aisle, did you? That's next to Platt's Drink of the Week. Well, of course, I was going to have to go down the beer aisle at least once during the holiday, and I picked up this classic from Samuel Smith. It is their Winter Welcome Ale. I paid $4.99 for this bottle. Comes in at 6% alcohol. Let's see what we got. Samuel Smith Winter Welcome Ale, brewed in Yorkshire at the old brewery. Little quote, "Blessing of your heart, you brew good ale, William Shakespeare." Of course, the old Bill Shakespeare, I'm sure, loved a good brew. Each year they have a different label on this, kind of a seasonal deal. This is the 2024-2025 winter season. You can find the different labels over the years online. A little background onto the brewery. Brewery was founded in 1758 in Tadcaster, Yorkshire, England. Claims to be Yorkshire's oldest brewery. I don't think anybody's necessarily disputed that, or at least to my understanding. It was originally known as the Backhouse and Hartley Brewery when it first opened. However, things started to change in 1847 when a gentleman named John Smith, with the backing of his father, who was a local merchant and cattle baron, purchased the brewery and took things over. Now, the name Samuel Smith did not come about till 1886 when John's nephew, Samuel Smith, took over the brewery. Thus, we have Samuel Smith. Now, interestingly enough, in 1758, when they built the brewery, they also drilled the well that they still use today. Several British-style ales and breweries use a very specific water due to the specific minerality. Apparently, at Tadcaster, their water is high in gypsum. If you do any kind of home brewing and do any kind of adjustment of your water, gypsum is one of the additives you would add to help get your water, a proper pH balance to brew certain style beers. So that is very important. That's kind of cool. They still have the original well. Today, the parent company, besides Brew Beers, runs a pub chain. We've talked about this before. In the UK, brewers, besides run the breweries, also get to own the bars your beers are sold at. Here in the US, we don't get to do that because of prohibition and the three-tier laws that came in afterwards. They run roughly over 200 pubs across the UK and more than 20 in the central London area. The company itself is known as a very conservative pub owner. They literally ban cursing. Employees are told that if guests use inappropriate, offensive languages, they can be, thrown out and what have you. And employees can get in trouble if they don't curb that. Also, apparently, they got into a little controversy by banning bikers. There are laws about discrimination, obviously, and not just here in the U.S., but other places. But apparently, bikers are not a protected group over there and not allowed. Also, oddly enough, but kind of to me a cool idea, in their pubs, they don't have TVs. So there's no watching the local sporting match, what have you. They also don't have music. Now, apparently some of this is due to the way they do fees over there. Here in the U.S., a bar owner doesn't necessarily pay a direct tax or fee to the government to show a game. But if you have cable or dish or whatever, you're paying some kind of fee. There's FCC fees on everything, so you're paying a fee there. And here in the U.S., if you have any kind of music, whether it's a jukebox all the way to live music, you're paying some kind of fee. So apparently they avoid that. But I've worked in bars that don't have TVs, and I'm telling you, it's a little different vibe. It's actually kind of cool. I'm old enough to remember when you went to a bar and you actually could talk to another human. You didn't go to a bar to avoid humans, being around other people who are avoiding people. Also, too, apparently they also don't allow the use of cell phones, which I find interesting. Again, I'm kind of, the older I get, the more I'm pro this side. I don't know if I'd spend the whole day, but if I ever make it over to the UK, I might have spent a couple hours in one of their pubs and check it out. Real quick, let's talk about some of their other beers. They have a nice little line, a kind of standard British ales, but they have a really good reputation. First is their Nut Brown Ale, comes in at 5% ABV. This is registered as vegan. I know this is a thing in the brewery world. Depending on your utilization of certain products, some beers can be quote unquote non-vegan. I'm not a vegan, so I don't want to talk about this, but I do know there's some brewing practices that certain vegans would say, is a no-go. But that Nut Brown is considered vegan. Next is their organic cider, 5% ABV. Samuel Smith was on the brewery, was on the cutting edge of the organic movement. They were doing this way before the last necessarily craft beer revolution and kind of the organic brewing thing getting big. Samuel Smith, I have to give them credit, was ahead of the curve on this kind of stuff. Lastly is their Yorkshire Stingo. Comes in anywhere between 8 and 9%, and this is a barrel-aged beer. And apparently their method of aging, they reuse barrels, and some of the barrels are up to 100 years old, which is kind of a cool story. I don't know how much the wood gets depleted compared to like aging bourbon. After a while, that barrel's going to kind of lose its ability to add any flavor. I don't know in brewing how much different that is. Now, this particular beer, it's their Winter Welcome Ale, and this time of year you'll see a lot of what's called winter ales or winter warmers. There's not necessarily a specific beer judge category for these type of beers, but they tend to be a little higher ABV, also tend to be a little darker in color. The higher ABV, will kind of give you that warming in the chest, or sometimes you get the rosy cheeks, if you have a beer or two, and kind of give you that warming feeling, obviously perfect for this time of year. When I talk about ramped up ABV, some people might think, like an IPA or double IPA, but we're not going hoppy in, we're going more to the malty end. These beers tend to be a little sweeter. Color-wise, brownish to brownish red to black. I believe this particular one is going to be a little lighter in color though. ABV-wise, they generally start at 6 and up, and that's where this starts at 6, so we're going to be kind of on the lower end. Sometimes these beers get spiced a little bit with things like nutmeg, cinnamon, ginger, just to name a few. But these tend to be a little more ramped up, a little more flavorful, a little bigger body type of beer. Right down my alley as far as that goes, so I'm ready to give this a try. All right, we're a nice copper, brownish, a little bit of reddish there. Fairly clear beer though, plenty of bubbles. Light khaki head, let's go on the nose. All right, there does seem to be almost a spice in the nose. I can't really put my finger on it. I definitely smell that malt coming in, malt sweetness. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Oh man, that's just a good malty beer. Reminds me a little bit of some of the Oktoberfest style beers, but those being lagers tend to have a little cleaner finish. You just kind of get to that malt. Here I do pick up some of those phenols that you get from an ale yeast, or some kind of, I say phenols, more like funky esters and stuff like that. There's a little more, there's a little more kind of hodgepodge of flavors kind of going on in the back of the mouth, unlike the clean, like a clean Marzen would go. Color-wise, though, we're fairly simple. A little more body, and that, again, doesn't go down quite as easy as a lager. 6%, I'm not necessarily getting the warmness on my chest. I got a feeling if I had a second one of these bad boys, though, that the cheeks might get a little rosy for sure. Really nice malty beer. Also, too, really brings that classic ale. There's a funkiness you get off an ale that you're just not going to get for a lager, and that's why some people don't like lagers. Some people, what have you. I like it myself every once in a while, just, a different style beer. Just a nice malty beer with a good bit of body, enough alcohol. That kind of works through that maltiness. It's balanced, so it's not overly sweet. You don't get a lot of hops. You don't get any real hops on the nose per se, but there is balance in this beer. A nice beer for the holidays, and I hope you have a couple yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video and lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or things you'd like me to try from the liquor store, please leave them in the comments section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. And until next time, bottoms up.